Alright, y'all, it's favorite trainer with a belt buckle. Here with Mr. Jimmy. We're at our Santa Monica location, and we're going to talk the first part of 5 in our series with the assessment. So, the professionalism that comes with being a trainer lacks today in the industry. Industry-wide, we accept this terrible statistic, 20 to 30% closing rate when it comes to the assessment. And that's really what Jimmy and I are going to have a conversation about and why we think that's pathetic. So Jimmy, start us off on what goes through your mind when you hear that 20% of the people that you meet with during the assessment are going to sign up with you as a trainer.
I'm just kind of like, what's going wrong? You know, what's not working? If the norm is 20% to be good and like 35% to be like excellent, the bar is really low, and it shouldn't be that low in my opinion. I know that when it comes to an assessment or working with clients and signing them up, a lot of it has to do, at least for me and the trainers that I see, is believing in your product, like believing in what you bring to the table and knowing that the value that you bring is going to completely change their life, or at least help their life improve, and they need that, you know. Whereas if you don't believe in your product, then you might be skating by with 20, 35%.
So the product helps set your price. And D1 athlete, big time swimmer. Did you go to the Olympics or no?
No, Olympic trials.
Olympic trials. CSCS, went through an internship, and it's hard to look at that number because it doesn't make sense because you're an educated trainer. But then when you take a step back and you go, what is the standard for entry into our profession? You read a textbook. So you read that textbook and you go out there, NASM, ACE, ISSA, whatever it is, and you're like, all right, how much do I charge? How do I do an assessment? How do I program? I don't even know my anatomy. And so we start with a really low number. I'm going to charge $40 per hour, $50 per hour. At our locations, we charge $100 just to do the assessment. So we don't give complimentary assessments. I don't believe in that. And the reason I don't is because, do you think in an hour with a client across from you, can you add $100 worth of value in that hour?
$100 that? Yeah, 100%.
It's like, of course I can. So why would you give it for free?
Oh, yeah.
So when you said, oh, come in and let me assess you for free, then you've already diluted your product. And so at least also with that barrier, they know $100. So when you tell them you're $150 to $250, that's your range depending on the commitment you sign up for. 12 sessions, it's going to be a lot more. You commit to 6 months, it's going to be a little more reasonable. The client already has an idea. And this is what really blows my mind. All of our gyms, La Jolla, Santa Monica, West Hollywood, we're within a 2-mile radius of Equinox. And that's on purpose because 109 facilities, the average member makes over $250,000. They have the supplemental income to afford training. And Equinox, you should be listening to this right here, Harvey. You guys accept 35 being excellent. At Show Up, would you say you close at?
I'd say
it's okay to be cocky.
I'd say about 90 plus.
And that one person who doesn't sign up gets in your head. You're like, the next one I'm definitely going to sign up. Where you don't have 3, 4 in a row, you don't sign them up. You understand your product because we're great trainers. We're not textbook trainers. So I think that's the illusion, and it's the smoke and mirror in the industry, is that people want to charge $150, but they don't even believe in their product. Do you have a trainer? Do you have someone design programs for you? Well, it's too expensive. I hear other trainers say that about getting a trainer. You don't believe in your product.
I would actually even add the 10% or 5%, you know, whatever, the one client that I don't sign up, right? I, get everybody's phone number because that's part of the professionalism is the communication portion leading up to the assessment. But if they don't sign up, or if they don't, I don't match them with another trainer or whatever, I still follow up with them because that's part of my product. So I'll always check in, how's training going, if they like the CrossFit or if they like, you know, Barry's Boot Camp or whatever, and offer a, you know, another assessment or another kind of refinement session where I can kind of check in on their form if they want to. Or I'll just send them a couple of videos that might help with shoulder pain or hip pain, just to kind of, you know, touch base. And that's not like every week, I'm kind of hawking them, but maybe once a month, once a quarter, you circle around, you just touch base with them. You know, I had one client who signed up who is, you know, 150, 185, around there. And took a couple years where I was just kind of checking in with him, and eventually he was like, you know what, I need this. And that's just because it's part of the product. That's just what I do.
That's huge right there, because one, you also need to think of that person who doesn't sign up could be another stream of revenue. Maybe it's online programming, maybe it's Zoom calls, something along those lines. But it takes about 10, 12, maybe as even much as 13 if you're not that good, points of contact to get that person to sign up. And it's not reflecting on Jimmy. It could just be the client is not ready at that time. So you follow up again, and you follow up again. I'd be really intrigued that 7 people who didn't sign up at Equinox, where are they in the system of follow-ups with that trainer? It's very transactional, so I'd be willing to bet that here are my rates. I'm a tier 2 trainer. It's $135. I can't afford that. Well, the reason they can't afford it probably because you didn't show the value during your assessment, and then they leave, and they don't even follow back up with them.
Well, yeah, they want to know that you care. Right? They want to, when they know that you care, they are more, you know, understanding and maybe motivated to work with you.
That's great. So a couple of things that we want to tap on additionally. We're going to go into what it looks like to do the resting measurements. We're not doing any overhead squat stuff or FMS. No, none of that. You listen, you care, and you provide a workout that's going to be specific to the individual. Those will be in the other videos. But some things that I notice when it comes to professionalism, I'll share a couple, and maybe you can share a couple, but just posturing. I'll see people when they're there, they're really reserved, they're late. Blows my mind how if you have a 6 a.m., you need to be there at 5:30. You need to make sure the gym is clean, you have the assessment ready. So here, you have some coffee, get them coffee. Follow up before. If you have a 6 a.m. on Monday, text them Sunday, what's your favorite drink can I bring you tomorrow? Maybe it's a Celsius, maybe it's a mocha, whatever. No judgments, make it kind of fun. Have it waiting for them. That is setting you apart from the quote unquote saturated market, where trainers are showing up late to the assessment. They're just doing a workout before, they're sweating. They don't look the part, they don't smell the part, and they rush the assessment and they try to show off with a flashy workout. What are some other things that you see? Or maybe you've heard of, because you're here. I mean, you haven't been in the corporate structure as much, but maybe what are some things that go through your mind with lacking professionalism?
Yeah, being late's a big one for me. I struggle with seeing that or hearing about that. Not talking to the client, just kind of taking them through the exercise or pointing to the next thing that they have to do, or explaining like the intent behind the exercise. I'm a big believer and a big, for me, I have to set my workout up or even my assessment up, and it has to build on itself, right? So it's like, here's the warm-up, and what's the point of the warm-up? What are you doing in the warm-up, and how is that gonna like set you up for the next exercise of force production or the next movement that you're doing, depending on the client. And then it all flows, and it's kind of like a little story, a little journey that you take them on. It's not just, all right, you're gonna foam roll, and then you're gonna do, a little hip thrust here, and then maybe we'll do some squats and some push-ups. Yeah, those are great movement patterns, but like what's the common thread that's keeping it all together and consistent? And when it's just a bunch of exercises on the whiteboard and they're just doing things just to move, I'm like, there's no thought behind that. Mm-hmm. So it's just, there's no effort.
Mm-hmm. And you said a couple of times, like set up, and it made me start thinking on how you set the expectations for that assessment, which is really big, because you could have a client who parks outside, 60-minute parking, and you have a great conversation and everything. 75 minutes later, they go outside and they have a ticket. Well, they're not going to show back up. So when they come in, you smile, introduce yourself, set clear expectations for what they're going to get during the assessment. We're going to talk about your goals. We're going to see how you move. And at the end, we're going to go over pricing. Do you have any questions? Well, how'd you come across Show Up? Oh yeah, we have a spot in West Hollywood. Let me tell you a little bit more about the company. And what that does is it really sets clear expectations that we're different, because you need to understand the client has a poor perception of who we are as fitness professionals. We are fitness professionals. The average trainer is not. They're not respected.
Well, that's the industry.
That is.
So they see, and they're used to the industry, they're used to people trying to con them for money or whatever, so they're a little bit on edge coming in anyway. So what you do matters. So having it well thought out and having experience and just being a genuine person and actually really trying to help, not just to make the sell, is going to make them feel comfortable enough to continue to work with you.
Bingo. So it's like that presentation. If you're there in a Gold's Tea dental floss shirt, you're already setting poor expectations. They're judging you based on what they see in movies. This guy's going to kick the shit out of me. You know, if you're there eating your chicken and broccoli and shit's in your mouth and you have bad breath, the professional over there who's a lawyer, they're thinking, well, this isn't that professional. Why would I want to pay them $200 per hour? And so it's so important to present yourself. You know, you look like a trainer out over, I would say, whatever your client is going to come in as, gym attire, go a little bit above that. Look, get some Lulu, get some, Viore, whatever the new stuff is today. If you have a collar, wear it. Have something on the back if you want. It says trainer. Have your branding on there. And then have that conversation, eye contact, handshake. Those are the little soft skills that a lot of people lack. Now, if I'm here during the assessment, and so, how's everything going? And it's like, I'm giving off nervous energy. And I do this a lot. You can watch the videos. I'm always just I'm just naturally doing that stuff. I have a high NEAT. So you need to reflect on your energy and your posturing and have someone look at what you're doing, because you may not even know it.
Yeah.
So how would you end this today?
How
would you end this today? A little piece of advice for those that are watching when it comes to setting up the expectations for the videos that come in our series on how to do the assessment.
I would take two things. One, be a little creative in what your product is, because it's unique to you, right? What's your personality? What do you bring to the table? What sets you apart from the average cookie cutter trainer that's going to make somebody excited to work with you? We're all different. Chris is different than I am. I'm different than Chris. I'm different from you. You're different from me. So what can you do to bring your X factor to your training session, which is going to, hook the client and make them excited to work with you? And two, what are the basic structural things you can do just to be organized? Being on time, being early, right? Telling them that the parking meter starts at 8. So if our assessment starts at 8, you probably want to park in the free 90-minute garage across the street. Those are easy things that are going to help you set up for the win. So I would be a little creative with what you bring to the table, and also be super structured and basic with that formal communication, because it goes a long way.
Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you an example of the assessment form that we use at Show Up. I'll also show you Equinox, and I'll do a little voiceover explaining the topics that we really like to talk on. So I may like talking more on stress. Jimmy may like talking about history on injuries, whatever it is. We'll go over the PAR-Q, and that's what we're going to do next.